So traditionally there was the normal cycle and then cycle off and PCT and come off everything. And then there was the blast and cruise, which is like you do high dosages for a period of time.
That's
like
also in effect.
like a 2 months, and then you do like a 1 or 2 month cruise where you go down to a normal test.
So that's frequently
elevated TNT
Now-
or lower doses.
Now, what that's avoiding, I want to comment for the audience to know, the benefit there is you don't go completely zero on steroids. There's a benefit and a drawback. I've noticed that going zero on exogenous steroids really improves sensitivity to testosterone. Really, especially if you don't raise it with Clomid or an AI or HCG. If you don't raise it, you have actually zero, literally zero sometimes, for a couple of weeks or something. This rapidly improves receptor sensitivity, just like blocking dopamine receptors does. So probably a short-acting androgen receptor blockade would be good to use in this off-season. The opposite of what people like Dave Palumbo use HCG and Clomid, which raise your testosterone so you don't get the full drop in sensitivity. Now, if you do that, you may have, if you do the PCP thing, not going off, you may have normal levels also, so it's like cruising. The issue with cruising is not the restarting of your balls, or the issue with going on PCD or off cycle. It's not that issue. It's when you actually go off, you get the advantage of the sensitivity, but you get this massive reduction in water content. So now, when you go off for 2 weeks or so, your heart really changes and then goes back on. The 4 week, 2 month is less of an extreme, 2 week, 4 week, 2 week is probably less of an extreme change because you're not going negative on the testosterone or zero. And this guy's using a relatively high amount, 400 milligrams, the dog crap thing was like 400 milligrams, 1,000, something like that. Not crazy high amounts. He also talks about health a lot, and he's more responsible than the Liver King with this stuff.
So prior to the consecutive days of the mass blast, it was my obsession with eating food. I'm obsessed. I love eating food, and I love eating the sushi buffet. So I initially started out with single mass blast days, which would be like one day a week.
I was wondering.
1 day a week. It's like on a Sunday, for example. It's the sushi buffet, and I eat as much as I can all day, and that's what I look forward to. I don't look forward to the training. I don't look forward to I look forward to the food. But in order to make sure that every single one of those calories goes into muscle and not into fat, I have to take all the right chemistry. And so that day becomes a blast. And then the next day, guess what? I don't want to eat a lot of food. Now I go back to my normal diet.
Oh yeah, so that 1 day thing is different.
Yeah.
If it's 1 day, it's too little time for you to, even if you're using Lantus and everything, it's too little time, even just from the calories, for you to become insulin resistant.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're doing is super compensating the muscle. And I believe, I have a hunch, I'm still studying muscle biology and stuff like that, but I believe that super compensating it may provide an immediate, opening the limits to the recruitment of the satellite cells and their differentiation eventually into adult cells. So, but the thing is, usually, like in the brain, I know more familiar, you have to have this upregulation for several days. But you might be able to start it and somehow maintain it in a low way. I don't know. And this is what so my thing is not just doing 1 day a week though. My thing is like alternating days mostly. So with the growth hormone, there's research that shows children who need to grow taller grow about the same amount when they take every other day growth hormone shots, which may be a little bit higher. So I've used, even in top 5 athletes in the world, not in bodybuilding, actual athletes, the every other day high dose growth hormone schedule. And I usually don't mention this stuff, but I think that people don't think that I don't know anything about steroids, so I want to mention that I help people, I've seen the results and stuff like that, I just don't talk about it much. But the point is, so I've seen those results from the growth hormone. The steroid, I've also seen results from it, but it's not as clear that it's causing benefit, because the difference is I'm still reducing the total amount and the amount of days. So you're getting similar or slightly better or similar results with much less doses. But so it's always to use a short-acting drug that has no ester to it, but different ones during the week, ideally with no ester. And when you do use drugs with esters, use shorter esters, then you try to take 1 day off a week. So if you took tranase, you might take a low amount, like 25 to 50 milligrams twice a week. But you'd be doing other things the other days, and there's also synergies across these things. So you get more 1+1, tren and anadrol the next day is more than anadrol and anadrol, or it's more than both anadrol and tren and anadrol, in my opinion. But I can't tell if it's because I have a bias towards strength, but it's certainly more than anadrol plus strength. It's a little bit more than that.
Wait, what's better? The best is switching between anadrol.
Yeah, if you had to take like a similar equivalent dose, anadrol is affecting different receptors. Anadrol causes a kind of effect that's clearly different, a kind of retention in the muscle that you can even see different. So there's going to be some synergy over the long term in taking, instead of just tren once a week, you're taking Anadrol plus tren once a week is more than the sum of its parts. It's not like taking Anadrol once a week plus, or tren once a week. So taking the two of them is not just adding the two of them, but something multiplicative. That's what I noticed with a lot of them. Like with Deca, tren, oxandrolone, primobolan, testosterone because of different reasons. And of course, the biggest synergies are seen between very different pathways, like you say, between the growth hormone, IGF-1 axis, and separately androgens, even though they also affect that axis. There's synergies come across. So having the rules of thumb are having very different drugs more infrequently, having some anabolic amount every time in the daytime, trying to have lower levels at night in general. These are the kind of things that I think cause, if you had to do a mass blast, the maximum amount you can during the year will cause better results at the end of the year. Also because this end of bodybuilders that I described, like Kamali and Hidetade Yamagishi and so on, this is actually, they've tried. None of them have tried fasting a lot. But some bodybuilders have tried even my recommended fast for weight loss, but not competitive ones, but not these guys. They've never tried. But these guys who had Ronnie Coleman, even though he has the back issues and his back has physically shortened, making his abdomen look bigger, he clearly has insulin resistance in his muscles. Clearly. I don't know. It got worse toward the end of his career, but it really seemed to happen after. Maybe it's due to other things also, but you can't describe that look without that. It looks like an acromegalic. It looks like a giant. They have a bigger abdomen because they can't grow taller. They're not real giants. They just have hyper growth hormone secretion in adulthood, despite having estrogen levels that stop their growth. So these guys, they have the face of Rich Piana, similar changes as Dallas McCarver, and they have the bigger abdomen, Palumbo, and the smaller arms. They have all of these features. So anyway, what I'm saying is none of these guys fasted, but the thing is they may not be able to reverse this. It could be a total career killer. It could limit the potential, although we believe insulin resistance can be reversed, and it should be able to with extreme fasting. You might lose a little bit of muscle, but it should be able to be done. These guys are not doing it. Whatever they're doing is not working. These guys cannot compete. King Kamali trains all the time, takes stuff, I'm pretty sure, by the way he looks, and looks like absolute dog shit. Like he looks really bad, worse than a guy who never worked out, because his abdomen's big. He doesn't even realize this. He keeps taking pictures, which he shouldn't do. Mainly takes, no, I like him genuinely also. But because he has coaching clients, and he's always posting coaching clients, but then he posts his own picture, and it's like, so what happened to you? You're still training, why do you look like crap? Like, you don't look like your waist is a bit bigger, it's a lot bigger, your shoulders are quite a bit smaller. Well, shoulders still pump because of, that's why I think he's taking androgens and maybe growth hormone. But the arms are much smaller. The whole look, it's the skeletal muscle reduction with the visceral fat. So this thing can be a career killer. We just made like a discussion about the mass blast that's almost 50 minutes long, but I think we should make a video about them.
The mass blast did evolve from like seeing all the problems with all of the other approaches. For example, these bodybuilders who've been on insulin for very long periods of time are eating huge amounts of carbohydrates for long periods of time, who don't fast, who don't take breaks from insulin. The idea of just shortening the insulin usage and taking breaks from it. And
androgens. Remember, we realized they cause insulin resistance. So it's lower doses, and high doses of androgens cause more inflammation per anabolic activity than lower doses. So there's diminishing marginal returns with harm to your body from taking. There's a lot of issues here that make you want to use more different drugs less frequently, and to sometimes have low levels in your body long term.
That's another principle.
That's why, for example, I don't know if you know this.
Lower dosages, more different compounds working in synergy.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed. I stopped working out for 5 days. I only did like 2 weeks.
I noticed.
Yeah. Do you know why I did that?
Why?
I was getting too strong too fast, and I noticed some slight tear on the shoulder. Not tear in the muscle, a rotator cuff, old existing issue that I have. But I was like, oh, why do more? There's no reason to do more now. I don't want to push the muscle to extreme strength, like more strength quickly. Too quick for. I was not training at all for mostly 5 years, but only trained for 2 months. So I have like no strength compared to before. So I was afraid it would go too fast. So I stopped training for that reason, because I'm thinking about the longevity of it. The other part though,
you could train your legs.
No, I would never train my legs. That's not good for longevity. It's not good for longevity, because if you're gonna have bigger, if you're just gonna train everything, great, and you're not burning a lot of muscle. If you're taking steroids and burning a lot of muscle, the legs burn the most muscle in their workouts, and they cause the most stress to the kidney with this. For sure, but the main issue is this. So as you get older, and as I get older, I want less pressure on my heart to work. If I have a lot of muscle in my upper body compared to a skinny person, skinny people live the longest on average. They should be small because the heart has to do less work and so on. So it'll be better than being fit, except there's insulin resistance potentially. There's less insulin resistance if you have a lot of fat. But being skinny and being aerobic is the key there. But what I was going to say is if you have a lot of muscle, the heart's working more. And if you have leg muscle, that's huge addition of muscle that I don't care about because I'm an arm wrestler. I don't compete in legs and I have knee problems. So why would I work out my legs when I know I'm going to have to get a knee surgery if I continue working out my legs for the next 10 years? I don't want to get a knee replacement because they don't last. So I know about all this. I planned this ahead of time. I saw my knees causing pain. I stopped squatting at 22, at still 500, more than 4 plates. And I deadlifted once while I was on gear. This is interesting. I mentioned this before, but it's interesting. I deadlifted once just from gear. Remember, I hadn't worked out for like 4 years, then took gear, worked out for 3 years upper body, then deadlifted 650 or so one night. At night, just walking down from my room thinking, oh, I feel like deadlifting. I already worked out today. I'm going to go and see how much I can do. I did 650, which is a bad idea. You can hurt yourself. But just to show off my potential is in my legs. I could have competed in the squat and deadlift. And I have large muscle in my legs when I train, very large, much larger than yours naturally. I don't train my legs. Maybe for that reason, it doesn't get as thin, but also I'm thinking I don't want to have my heart work to force blood to a distant place with this is a lot of work over like 20 years to have big legs.
Yeah. But you could get big calves because they're, calves aren't
Still
that
the
big,
most
even
distant.
if they get
The
the
most
most distant. A little bit to the calves doesn't
Might
add
improve
that much
circulation
body
for
weight,
them.
but it looks nice.
Mine improve.
Yeah.
No, I don't care what people think. I remember I care a little bit now because you guys are always around me, but I always wanted to be strong, really. So I don't, bro, it's not even people think that. It's not that I don't care. Nobody cares. The people don't care. The muscular people, men might care a little bit, but what you think care, do not care. He thinks